The Rockpile Report, the pettiest, hardest drinking Bills podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to another edition of the Rockpile Report podcast. I'm your host, Bill season ticket holder Drew Gear. That's my producer, Chris Kruger. And Chris, we are faced with, I don't know. I'm Ricky Bobby in Talladega Nights, not knowing what to do with my hands, as we are now faced with back-to-back Sundays of no Buffalo Bills football.
I know, it's a great thing. I got a question for you. Do you have any phobias?
Phobias? I mean, who doesn't have phobias? I mean, Anthony Prohaska and I sat here the other night and talked about how, sharks, because of a movie that I saw when I was 5 and probably shouldn't have. How about spiders, which I thought I could remedy when I was 7 years old by watching the movie Arachnophobia? Wrong. We're talking about spiders. Those things are creepy as hell. No matter how you frame them, no amount, who was in that? Jeff Daniels? No matter how much goofy Jeff Daniels you throw at a swarm of killer spiders, it's still terrifying as hell when you're under the age of 10.
Do you have anything that's non-animal related?
No, not really, because I feel like being eaten alive is the ultimate horror. There's a lot of things when I think about because think about it, most phobias, most fear is induced by what you feel is impending doom. If you were to say, hey, Drew, you're going to step outside and you're going to get crushed to death by something that falls from the sky, that's going to suck for all of maybe 5 minutes. If I get set on fire, well, what did they say? I think they said it takes about 45 seconds for all you. I read a thing once. It takes for 45 seconds. It's the most intense agony humanly imaginable, but then you eventually die. So it's over relatively fast. I think that being eaten alive is the ultimate horror from which all other horrors, I think I'd if you're talking about death being the source of all horror, I think the apex of that is being eaten alive. It's why human nature has taught us to stay out of the friggin' woods. Don't stay out of the woods in the dark. Be afraid of the dark in general. That's just a human trait. Don't go in the water when you can't see the bottom of it. These are all things that are born of, hey, don't eat me alive.
Okay, for me, I would consider myself a snakeist. Snakes shouldn't be alive, all of them. And I wouldn't call it a phobia. And when I say this, most people are going to go, that should be a Drew phobia. But the closest I have to a phobia is the dentist. I do not like going to the dentist. I don't like the atmosphere. I don't like the sounds. And anytime I have been to the dentist, bad experience. And it's happened the earliest dentist experience I can remember. I clearly have never told this on the podcast, but it also involves being petty. So I was in high school. You transfer out of going to a children's dentist, and naturally you're going to go to the dentist that your parents go to.
Okay.
So I remember
following you.
I remember going to the dentist before school, and then I left the dentist and I had all these red marks on my neck. And I think the dentist did something with the air gun to my neck. And I remember telling my mom and dad about it, and they sided with the dentist.
What do you think? Is this Dr. Giggles?
Yeah.
He's trying to take you out as a child?
Well, I don't know. So I had all these red marks.
I mean, if he could see the future and he could see the stupid hair you have now, I might have tried to off you as a child too.
So I remember that happening, and the dentist's office was not far away from where I first worked at CVS.
Yeah.
And I remember he came in once with a roll of film, and I had to handle the roll of film. And I just remember opening it and exposing it.
Oh, my God.
So his family vacation photos this is 2003, so his family vacation photos.
So the statute of limitation on destruction of personal property has obviously expired.
Yeah, I mean, of course I lied to him about it, but I went to the dentist yesterday and Awful. All of my phobia, like, they're cleaning my teeth, and I'm laying there, and I'm like, I'm doing like this with my hands because the sound is like nails on a chalkboard when they're cleaning your teeth.
With the brush and the cup and the thing.
All that. And I was like, the guy knew that. Like, I prepped him with all my bad dentist shit. And throughout the entire like cleaning, he kept on asking me, "Hey, are you good?" And then I would just try to ante up what else I would rather be doing. Like, I told him I would rather get syphilis violently than sit in this chair while you clean my teeth. And
Chris, I'm not going to lie to you. We live in an era of tolerance, right?
Yeah.
We live in an era where we're all supposed to be considerate of people's feelings, and I don't appreciate you being a rabid anti-dentite on my podcast.
Well, it ended with, after all the
rabid anti-dentite.
After all of the horrible shit I had said to the guy, he did kind of give it back to me at the end. He was like, "Well, you did such a good job. I'm going to leave you with a goodie bag as you leave the dentist." And he opens the drawer. He puts in like Pro Enamel, like travel size Colgate. And then he opened the toothbrush drawer and he's like, "I'm going to give you a toothbrush. Do you have a preference on what color you want?" And I go, "Who gives a fuck? I'm 40.
He gives you a purple one.
He gave me like and he's like, "Oh, wow, you really are 40. Yeah. We don't give a shit about the color of our toothbrushes."
He saw it's because as he was talking to you, he's like, "Well, there's no way this is a real adult who pays taxes. There's no way." Chris, I'll tell you something. The dentist, I view it as a personal challenge. I go to the dentist, they give me a cleaning and they go, "I don't know how, but you have perfect bite relation," which is psychotic to think about. And then they go, "Yeah, but you probably should do something about that." And I go, "It's begun." And we just do the dance where I go, "Nah." And he goes, "No, but you don't understand. Like, if your teeth are like that, like the cleaning in between there, it's going to become difficult. They might fall out." I'm like, "All right, whatever. I get a bridge." And he goes, "Okay, but like your overall dental health." And I go, "Doc, everything that could have taken me by now, my teeth ain't going to be the thing that does it. Wrap it up." And it's hilarious watching them get frustrated because they see me as like that kid, like, in all those movies where the Michelle Pfeiffer goes to the inner city and she's trying to teach kids and she sees the one kid who she's like, "Oh, I can help this one." And then that kid just rejects their help. I'm that person for the dentist. He's like, "Kid, you have no idea how much better your smile could look." And I go, "You have no idea how little I care about anything."
Yeah, outside of me giving it to the dentist and the dental assistant or whatever.
It's hilarious.
He gave it right back to me with like, "Here's your goodie bag."
If I was him, I would have just done something. Like, I just would have done something. See, and this is why I can't practice medicine.
Yeah, see, every time
this is why I'm not qualified to practice medicine.
Every time I make a dentist appointment, just like this matchup for Monday night, you get PTSD.
You think about all the atrocities in the past?
Previous dentist visits. Because, like, you can't say, dude, we lost to Urban Meyer and the Jaguars.
Oh, yeah.
We're one of his 2 NFL wins.
Well, that's what I was going to say, like phobias, flashbacks, PTSD. Guys, welcome to Jaguars Week. This is our Week 3 preview. The Buffalo Bills against the Jacksonville Jaguars here at home. 7:25. Note, 7:25 Eastern Standard, not 8 o'clock, because ESPN and all their infinite wisdom has decided to simulcast the week the Bills have it. So, if you are watching abroad, understand it does not start at 8 o'clock. And if you tune in by then, you will have already missed Josh Allen scoring a touchdown.
It's Commanders-Bengals is the other Monday night matchup. So but that one is on ESPN, and it's also a part. It's
Ocho?
It's also on ABC. So if you don't have ESPN, you can go to ABC and watch that game. But I would think Jacksonville Buffalo would be better suited to be the game you give all of America on an over-the-top channel like ABC. Nobody should be watching the Commanders play football right now, considering they just won. They beat the Giants without scoring a touchdown.
They set the record. The Giants set a record for being the first team in NFL history to lose a game while scoring 3 touchdowns and holding their opponent to none.
Yeah, I don't get it. The Bills game should be on ABC, but it's not.
The line on the game is Bills by 5.5, which I don't like that. I don't know. I think it's too high. Chris, from a gambling perspective, I think that's a little high, don't you?
Yeah, this also could mean a trap game for the Bills, as the Jaguars game usually is.
Sure. Well, if they're looking at history, yes, which we're about to talk about. You want to talk about PTSD. But first, we're going to talk about the injuries ahead of this one that are going to be out there to watch and that are probably going to play a significant role depending on who's in and who's out. For Jacksonville, they've lost it's good to know they've lost one of their best cornerbacks in Tyson Campbell. He was put on the IR. I don't know if or when he'll be back. I think it was an ACL tear, Chris. If you can give that a goog and just fact check me here. Tight end Evan Ingram is considered week to week with a hamstring injury, and he will not be available for the Jaguars offense. And then running back Tank Bigsby at the end of the game injured his shoulder. Now, he didn't leave the field, but he also didn't get another offensive snap. It'll be interesting to see what his practice workload looks like in the run-up to the game, considering that they do have an extended period of time before they have to make any kind of a determination on that. Chris, if you want to go, who else here? Yeah, they haven't put that out yet. So if you go back to last week. So last week, Darnell Savage, another defensive back, did not practice with a quad injury for the entire week and was ruled out. He will be an interesting one to watch in the run up to this. Now, I really did. Also, Caleb Johnson, Taylor Lacey, these aren't starting level players, but who knows? And then obviously there's Eric Armstead, who's on the report only because he's old as shit, but still really good. So he's getting the Von Miller treatment. On the other side of the ball, you have the Buffalo Bills. Taron Johnson. Who knows? Chris, the fact that they didn't put Taron Johnson on IR tells you that they think it's not a 4-week injury. So then with that in mind, how many weeks is it?
I would just take the forearm, wrap it like Lex Luger in 93 when he had the metal plate in his forearm and would knock guys out. Just wrap it like Lex Luger, get back out on the field. That's what I say.
It'll be interesting to see what his practice situation looks like throughout the course of the week. And then Terrell Bernard, obviously we lost him out for the last 4 weeks, which means the Bills are going to have to elevate somebody at linebacker. Now, they went with Balin Spector last week because he was already active, and obviously they'd like him for his special teams acumen. The question is, who gets the call now, Chris? If you want to go to Our Lads, to pull up the Bills Our Lads page for me. There's also Dwayne Smoot and Javon Solomon, who are both questionable coming into this one. Dwayne Smoot with a toe, Javon Solomon with an oblique injury. Now, when you take a look at the makeup of our linebacker corps, this is an interesting piece ahead of this. If we're talking about injuries and elevations, right here you've got Nick Morrow listed on the depth chart, at least, as next man up, except for the weak side linebacker position. But Nick Morrow is a guy who used to wear the dot. So with that in mind, if you were talking about in-game, break glass in case of emergency, we've already got Balin Spector active, let's put him out there. Chris, is this a week where you say, hey, Nick Morrow, NFL veteran, he may not have the highest ceiling in the entire world, but he has legitimate play calling experience in the NFL, and in that way, it makes more sense to put him in as the starting middle linebacker and then call up a Joe Andreessen if you need special teamer who can also play inside the box a little bit and kind of play that weak side linebacker role like he did in the preseason. Yeah,
we got young linebackers. You got to give that to Morrow.
I think for a game like this, Nick Morrow has to be the call-up. I'll be really interested to see if they go another way. That's going to be something that I think we're all going to second guess right up until the game is over. Now, back to the topic we were discussing before injuries, Chris. I have a thing with the Jaguars.
Do you want to get out the We got the B team, so we got Fowler, Orlovsky, and Louis Riddick on the call.
Ooh, I like Arlovsky and Louis Riddick.
I like Fowler.
You like Fowler?
Yeah.
I don't hate him. I just don't know. He's like that. He's like have you ever been looking for a piece of candy and you can't find the one you really want, and then you stumble across one that you're like, this'll do.
You know, speaking of that, I was in the bathroom at work today.
Please tell me you didn't eat a piece of candy off the bathroom floor.
No, close. in the urinal was a wrapper of Werther's original.
It made you think of me?
Yeah.
That's hilarious. All right. So I don't know what to think of Fowler, but otherwise I like that crew. I think it'll be well commentated, and luckily it won't matter because we will be in dock slot.
Yes.
And in section 200, row 7, seats 15 and 16. So if you guys are looking for a place to hang out, Chris, what's the address?
4180 Abbott Road.
Come see us. Come check it out. We'll be there churning out all the eats. It's going to be a long day out there in those parking lots. A lot of fun. Make sure you stop by Dock Slot and say hi if you're going to be in the area for the game. Now, as I was saying, I hate the Jaguars. And it seems like a strong statement because when you think about hating a team, it's usually a division opponent, right?
Yeah.
Like you could say, hey, I really don't like this one player on said team. Or, man, this team really used to bug me. When you use the word hate, if you want to Google it, Chris, what is the Webster's definition for hate? I mean, it's this, they're just a team that bugs me. It's extreme disgust or dislike. Antipathy or a loathing. I don't hate, I loathe the Jaguars. And I've got a lot of reasons, right? Like there's a lot of things. One of the things, we come on this podcast all of the time and talk about how the Bills and Browns create some absolute atrocities on a football field anytime they're allowed to get together. The Bills and Jags don't get enough credit for creating some of the same types of disasters over the years. Some of just the dumbest, most painfully mediocre football games I've ever seen with my own two eyes. Some of the most frustrating moments of my recent Bills life have involved the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, let's take it back to the beginning, Chris. They ended Jim Kelly's career. That's a thing. I remember watching him get carted off and just having that feeling like tears. Like you're a little kid and you're just like, because they're just here. You're like, oh, I'm never going to see that guy again. They also were the ones who kind of really stuck a fork in just what a fraud EJ Manuel was. Do you remember that day?
No, I don't.
The podcast we tried to record after the England game, and you had to boil 40 minutes of audio down to 1.5 minutes.
It was definitely not 40 minutes. It was no more than 10.
Oh, is that when you cut me off? See, that's how drunk I got.
No.
It didn't matter. I think I fell asleep on the bathroom floor that day. You got another game that just started a bench clearing brawl that I missed because I was in the bathroom. An almost unwatchable playoff loss that Bills fans everywhere were too busy, still basking in the afterglow of having broken the drought. Can you imagine how sick you would be if the Bills made the playoffs this year and lost to a team 10-3?
That would irritate me.
It's worse than 4 quarters of Josh Allen throwing to Patrick DeMarco in double coverage. It's worse than 4 quarters of that. We lost to Blake fucking Bortles in the playoffs. And it was just an embarrassment in terms of what this team was offensively. Rick Dennison he got fired after that game. They should have pulled remember when Alabama left Lane Kiffin after they won a national title and they abandoned him there?
Well, the best way Lane Kiffin left was Tennessee.
No, that's funny. But the team just ditched Lane Kiffin as their offensive coordinator. They just ditched him after the game. How about an England game that cost us Daquan Jones and Matt Milano in a single half of football?
That bothers me.
How about a 9-6 loss that had their Josh Allen picking off our Josh Allen? It's all stupidity. It's all stupidity. It's nonsense. It has been a shit show almost every single time these two teams get together on a football field, and that dynamic doesn't get nearly enough credit. Everyone goes, oh, no, these are good teams, and they'll have a good game. There have not been any good Jacksonville Jaguars Bills games. No competitive, hey, everything went by the numbers, nothing stupid happened, and we all just saw a good football game and went home. Never. Never in the history of these two teams playing each other. And then when you think about what they are, aren't they kind of easily hateable?
No.
Like, first of all, you inserted a football team into an area of the country that, first of all, Florida didn't need a third football team. As evidenced by the fact that they had to tarp off how many of their seats just to not get blacked out.
Yeah.
Like, that right there should have underscored for you that they suck. And this is a stupid idea. And oh, by the way, I know what we'll do. We'll put them into a footprint that's predominantly college football oriented. Hey, Chris, it's still college football oriented. Way more people care about the Gators than care about the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean, Jacksonville's where they do the world's largest cocktail party, Georgia and Florida. Every, what? I want to say Halloween, somewhere around there. It's the biggest game in Jacksonville. Bigger than any Jacksonville Jaguars home game, that's for sure.
So we decided to ham-fist this football team into an area that nobody asked for one. And then, oh, by the way, our owner, yeah, he also owns a soccer team. So guess who becomes England's team? And people from England don't even like them because they always lose. Unless they're playing the Buffalo Bills, they generally get their asses kicked. And then you get the whole Urban Meyer fiasco. And then they hired Doug Marrone.
Yeah.
Like, there is every reason under the sun to not like this football team ahead of this game, and it has nothing to do with all of what the actual X's and O's and the players on the field are going to dictate. I just can't get to a place where I don't grossly dislike this football team. Luckily, I do like tonight's guest. Luckily, despite all the things I may hate about the Jacksonville Jaguars, there's two people who I don't mind talking to about them. And with us tonight are the boys from down by the bank. We got JK, we got Darrick. Guys, how are you doing tonight?
Great, man. Despite the fact that we're 0-2, at least it wasn't a hot sweat box at the game on Sunday, which for Buffalo fans, if you ever come down here in September, just wear nothing. I know y'all would do it anyway, -20. Just don't wear as little clothes as possible.
Actually, no. Buffalo Bills fans, come on down. You know, hey, drink as much beer as you want. The humidity is not as bad.
See, this guy's lying. That's what I love about him. He's a liar. No. See, here's the thing. You know who you're talking to? You're talking to a guy who has done the polar plunge multiple times wearing a Speedo. I'm not afraid of nothing, dude. I have no shame.
You've done the polar plunge, but have you done the Diddy dip?
Oh my God. Dude, listen, dude, I don't have enough lube for that. I don't think anybody does. 1,000 bottles of lube. Holy crap. Dude, lock me up forever. If that news ever comes out about me, if the cops can take me and throw away the key, I don't want to make eye contact with anybody I know ever again. Guys, it's always fun talking to you guys before the Buffalo Bills and the Jacksonville Jaguars play what is inevitably going to be a disaster of a football game. I mean, I just got done extolling the virtues of how every game we play turns into some weird shit show. And you know it. Like, it just gets weird. You know, like that game in London where we lose two of our best defensive players. And then Trevor Lawrence can't stop turning the ball over. And the Bills inevitably come back. And all of a sudden, both teams are standing here. You've got every Bills fan who got drunk at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and who was mad about the way the first half went, now he has to kind of stumble in and watch the TV going, are you kidding me? After all that screaming and yelling, my team might win this game. And if you're Jacksonville, you're going, how? How did we end up in this position where we might lose?
Yeah.
That's every game, isn't it?
It's the last two games. And again, even going back to the Nathan Peterman, You know, that whole situation, right? I think that was when we all, became, developed our relationship. But, the last two games the Jags have won or lost, excuse me. They have, look at me, I'm in the twilight zone right now. The last two games they've lost have been, wow. Like, how do you lose the ball or how do you lose the game? I mean, it doesn't go any worse than you getting a safety and then you getting the ball back with 1 minute and 13 seconds left with an opportunity to score and you don't score. Even going back to a formidable opponent for you all, the Miami Dolphins, week 1, getting the ball back with 4 minutes left with this high-powered offense and you're not able to score. We want to give you Gabe Davis back. You guys can have him.
I was about to ask, man.
You guys can have him.
What has the Gabe Davis experience for you guys as fans been like?
It hasn't been bad. It hasn't been bad.
He's not. It's not that he's bad. It's just that we needed someone that's just got a little bit more presence and threat. Like I feel like he doesn't scare NFL DBs enough.
Well, no,
and that's what we.
If you look at his catch numbers, right? Like, there's a lot of teams who are not afraid. Like, we used to say that. We're like, Gabe Davis, he's going to get singled by most teams. Why? Yeah. Because they're not afraid of him. Everyone's like, well, it's because we have Diggs. Nah, I don't think that's it. I think it's because he's impactful in a few areas of the field. Like, he's a great mismatch if you can get him on a safety, right? Those post routes, you've seen a couple this year. That's where he makes his bread. If you can get him on a safety, if you can get him on a linebacker or on a slot corner, anything outside the numbers, and good cornerbacks will use the boundary to their advantage and box Gabe Davis out. And he doesn't make those splash plays that when you look at his highlight reel, you assume he should be capable of that all the time. Yeah. And it disappears for huge stretches.
And you talk about like the boundary, and I think that's what the Jags have come up against in their last two games. You know, they make splash plays, they get down, and then within the 20-yard line, we're getting absolutely destroyed right now. Within the 20 and 30-yard line, we can't convert on, runs. We can't convert on passes. The offensive line doesn't have the opportunity to be able to hold up. So we're the good teams, or the two losses that we've had right now against Cleveland and Miami, have had that opportunity to be able to use that end zone as the 12th defender, for us in a red zone situation, and we can't get any plays that are developed within that.
That back line and the sideline is your worst enemy. And here's the worst part about when I think about what the Jaguars are this year. On paper, everybody was buying the futures on the Jacksonville Jaguars back in May, back in July, back in August when the preseason was going on, because you guys get, Gabe Davis. I mean, you paid him big money the Bills weren't willing to spend, but you paid him and you go, hey, we've got this big bodied receiver to be our X or our Z receiver, excuse me. Then you go out, you spend a first round pick on a really big, physical, long, talented guy from LSU. And you say, okay, we are set on the outside, so we don't need to pay Calvin Ridley. We can let him walk. Yep. Then you go out, you take Mitch Morse from us, you bring in Ezra Cleveland from, I believe it was Cleveland. I don't know where Ezra Cleveland came from.
Yeah, it's Brown.
And you bring him in here, and now you say, okay, we've revamped the interior of the offensive line. This is going to pay dividends for our football team, and on paper, we're going to be great. And then this week, in the locker room, after the loss, Travis Etienne gets asked a question from a reporter about how Doug Peterson in his press conference after the game said, hey, we're still a really talented football team. And he goes, yeah, we don't need talent. We need workers.
Yeah. And here's the thing. When you look at that question, those press conferences, we get so much hype around here. And it's not just the team. It's the whole, everything from the new stadium, the whole 9 yards. The Kool-Aid is so sweet. But then when the season starts, it's unsweet tea with no lemon, no sugar, same shit, different day. So, every time for the last 3 years. And the only thing that I can sum it up without digging through whether if it's
Here we go.
the right schemes to be
I
called.
know where he's going. Here he goes.
The right schemes that are being called or the right, plays or whatever, it sums up to one person. In my opinion, this is just my opinion.
Okay.
Trent freaking Baalke.
Okay.
Don't like him. I never have. Never will.
He hates Trent Baalke.
Okay.
With a passion. And
so you're
that's
blaming
why,
your GM for this mess.
He's blaming.
I'm not blaming the GM. I'm
Yes,
not blaming the GM. No.
Die on the hill.
No, I'm not dying on the hill. I just feel like an organization wins top to bottom, and we got a pretty good bottom minus the offensive line, but the top is not good either.
Well, let's get into some of this because you talk about the top down. We just got done recapping a game this week where I flat out said the difference in that game, Miami versus Buffalo, one team gets dog walked in their own house by a bunch of guys who other teams would look at and call them backups. That's coaching. Right?
Yep.
That's leadership.
Yep.
That's coordinating. That's coaching. That's leadership. And then I look at the team like the Jacksonville Jaguars where I go, you guys have all of the things on paper that should make a successful football team, should make a cohesive offense. You've got an expensive quarterback. You've got a bunch of expensive wide receivers. You brought in new offensive linemen. You doubled down in the running back position with talented players. Why can't this team score points?
The reason why they can't score.
Well, I was going to say is I look at the head coach and I say, I want to start with him and ask the question, for a guy whose career started off in Jacksonville pretty good, it seems to be going south pretty precipitously.
Yeah.
And so where is it where does Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence and on down the line, who's to blame for the state of the offense right now, in your opinion?
So in my opinion, and the popular narrative around here in Jacksonville is the play calling within the offensive coordinator with Press Taylor. But the thing about it is that we don't know 100% sure who's calling the plays. And
well,
so
we know.
Jacksonville, we don't know, but Jacksonville is common for looking for a scapegoat, right? And the scapegoat right now is Press Taylor, the offensive coordinator, but we don't know if he's actually calling the plays or if Doug Peterson's calling the plays, right? And so the team and a lot of people are getting really caught up in, what play calls and what things are going on right now. The problem with the Jags right now is they're not executing on offense. It's run, pass, punt. It's pass, run, punt. They're not very predictable, they're very predictable on offense right now. And that's what's leading to a lot of disasters and the slow starts. Slow starts meaning that they have, over the last two games, their first 3 or 4 possessions, they've only taken probably cumulatively 45 seconds off the clock. And again, it's literally them running plays and literally turning the ball over. And then you have a situation like Cleveland did in the first quarter where they had the ball for 9 minutes. They had the ball for 9 minutes. Jacksonville last Sunday had 16 yards total passing in the first half. 16 yards, not a play, not a per average. They had a total of 16 yards.
Can I say something real quick? That strikes me as one of those statistics where you would throw that out there at a bar in some half-ass pros versus Joes thing where you go, hey, for $5,000, do you think you could get 16 yards passing against an NFL defense? And dudes would have to sit there and think about it because you're like, I think I can throw a shovel pass. And some dude can run and get more.
I think I can throw a 10-yard hitch.
Exactly. I can get 10, right? At least once I can get 10. Yeah. I can get the other 6 somewhere inside of a half a football.
The crazy part about it, Drew, and the crazy part about it is that it comes – and then you have Brian Thomas Jr. taking off the top of the defense.
Yep.
And
80 yards.
We're back.
And this is the thing that is so fascinating.
So crazy.
The tape that I've watched on you guys, the statistics that I've looked at ahead of this game, I don't know what I'm looking at. I don't know what I'm seeing because you watch a team that can literally run around for out of a half. If a half is 30 minutes, you can go 26 of those minutes looking like you don't know the game of football. Mm-hmm. And then have a window where all of a sudden a couple plays, those big plays hit and you're back. And all of a sudden you're putting
they're
points.
called the cardiac cats.
Well,
and this is why I believe, again, my opinion, this is what he and I do, Drew, all the time is argue about this. This is why I believe Press is calling plays until Doug sees he's in trouble.
Well, you do know his name is Sherwood. His first name is Sherwood. And I'm not going to lie to you. I would go by Press too if my first name was Sherwood.
Look, I would go by dog shit if my first name was Sherwood.
Yeah. Look, they harp on this down here on local media, local sports radio, but I just have a feeling that when you look at the team, the Doug bails him out sometimes, and that's why they look good really quick, and then they go back, and then they take steps back. See, that's my opinion. It's my opinion. So is we look like crap, and then Doug bails him out with a few calls or does stuff himself, and then he goes back.
See,
what's the dude from Always Sunny in Philadelphia that has like the lines and everything? And like,
Charlie.
Yeah,
Charlie. That's Darrick.
Darrick is Charlie. Yeah, Darrick is Charlie. Darrick has all of these things but out there.
But John, I'm not going to lie to you. There's some basis, like even for us as Bills fans, when we look at this and we go, hey, there's been times Sean McDermott has admitted, hey, I took over play calling duties in the middle of a game. Why? Because I didn't trust what my coordinator was doing. Now, kudos to him for not burning that bridge when he did it. He was, because there was a lot of coordinators who would quit, right? Like think about your professional lives. If your boss ever stepped in and said, hey, go sit down, take a 3-hour break while I do your job, you would want to quit.
Yeah.
And instead, he finds a way to keep those guys on for a while this whole thing is happening. And then I'm sure later he goes back and goes, this is why I did what I did. Here's what you weren't seeing. Here's what I did differently. And maybe you should consider that later. This sounds like he wants Press Taylor to be good. And when it's not going well, he occasionally steps in and goes, hey, call this play. Just here's what it should be. Give me the play sheet. I'll do it.
Well, the reason why, and this is no slight to any of the fans in Buffalo or you or anything else like that, the Buffalo Bills continue to win the regular season.
Yep.
And that's why they stay. They continue to win the regular season. They continue to put up gaudy numbers in the regular season. They continue to outperform and win, 10 plus games in the regular season. But when it comes to the playoffs, again, no slight to you all at all. It's just a fact. Where's that at in the playoffs?
Well, and I think that's a huge part of Sean McDermott this year, literally going, Jesus, take the wheel. And he's letting his coordinators do their thing. And right now we're the highest scoring offense in the AFC with bit pieces that Emmanuel Acho tried to tell everybody we didn't have the talent.
Yeah.
We don't have the talent to compete this year. So our future is dead. We have no hope. And now we're the highest scoring team in football through 2 weeks because we have a coordinator who's doing the heavy lifting because Sean McDermott's taken his hands off the wheel.
Yeah.
This is one of the things when I talk about whoever's calling the plays. On paper, your offense looks like it should be successful. But I go back to the safety against Cleveland. Inside your own 5, trailing by 3 late in the 4th, the play call gets made. And it's not even to the sticks. Like you're not even running sticks routes. What you're running are long developing 14, 15, 20-yard routes downfield. And nobody is able to get open before that line caves in on itself. And Trevor Lawrence takes a safety.
Yep.
And while it's still a 1-score game, now it's no longer a field goal game. And that puts more pressure on the offense. I guess my question is, something is broken here. Do you guys know, is it just the coaching staff overestimating the natural talent of the players to go do the heavy lifting themselves?
I'll take you back 2 weeks. My bad, Darrick. I'll take you back 2 weeks. I'll take you back 2 weeks to 4th and 1 in Miami to stop the momentum. And it's 4th and 1, and you line up and you run a toss sweep with your running with Travis Etienne. Not your big body back, Tank Bigsby. You run a toss sweep, and you get east and west versus going north and south, right? So those kind of plays, right?
Yes.
That'll take you back right there. That 4th and 1 play is coming from the same area that when you line up in shotgun with the ball on the 2-yard line, and your quarterback is 5 yards into the end zone with an extra defender that we've already talked about. The extra defender is the safety. It's coming from the same play.
Now,
it's coming from the play.
The pass pro. Well, here's the thing. That happens because of one other thing I want to ask you about here before we switch gears and talk about defense. The pass pro for you guys has been, for a team that has invested a lot of money in this offensive line, it has been bad. Like, not just rocky. Like 7 sacks in 2 games is rough. Now, us in Buffalo were spoiled because we have a quarterback who, just because of his size, his pocket agility, he's allowed to get away with a lot. Yep. So there are a lot of plays that are pressures, but that don't become sacks because he's just physically gifted enough to get away from that. I mean, you're talking about the guy who stiff-armed Aaron Donald. Yeah. There aren't many quarterbacks who can say that. When you look at what's happening to your protection right now, why, like, what is it that seems broken about this to you? Like, where is it just that they haven't spent enough time together and that the interior line is too new?
It's not that it's too new. It definitely isn't. The team has said all offseason, we like our line. We like our line. And with the, the free agents, coming in, it looked like they would be better on paper. But through the first 2 games, it just seems like to me they have no continuity. If a D-line runs a stunt, it's all over. Any form of a stunt. Myles Garrett speed rushed Cam Robinson so bad on Sunday that he came flying around that corner. Trevor didn't stand a chance.
See, well, I think about this game we put up against Miami last week, and you saw Bobby Babich get into his bag and run not only a NASCAR package out there, he puts our defensive ends in the middle, but then runs a twist, and all of a sudden it's Ed Oliver and AJ Epinesa in a pincher's movement on the outside, completely untouched, just coming in on Tua. If they run that against you guys, how confident are you that your offensive line can pick it up?
Well, I don't think they're very confident because you're running that you're running that type of situation right now into the weakness of our offensive line, which is between the tackles and Mitch Morris. The left and right guard right now is not good. So Mitch Morris right now is the person that is a great center. Like, again, great center on the inside and everything else like that. He's great.
We miss him.
You got left tackle in Cam Robinson, who didn't have a good game last week, but I'm not going to say he's a bad, offensive tackle. He just did not have a good game last week.
He had to go against Myles Garrett. Nobody has a good day.
It wasn't the best game last week. I mean, you got a right tackle in Anton Harrison, who is probably one of your more up-and-coming, right tackles that have been played very well. It's the left guard and the right guard is the weakness of the Jacksonville Jaguars when it comes to running between the tackles, and it's also becoming from the pass protection right now. This is an opportunity because if you run that pincher situation that you're talking about right now, a decent quarterback steps up in the pocket and you got the protection, there from the left and the right guard to be able to hold off something, to be able to do anything. And that isn't there for the Jags right now. We've got players right now that in Cooper Hodges right now, that's the second string left, or he's a swing guard that can play both sides. That could be playing right now and getting those valuable reps versus what we've got as far as the old guard right now in the left and the right guard, with us, so those plays right now, you can go back and take a look on the safety. I know, it's only close in horseshoes and hand grenades. If the line would have held there was some developing plays that were going to be splash plays downfield. And again, it's if it were to happen, a lot of shit's got to go right
for sure
in order for that to happen. But if you're looking at the all 11 or all 22 that you get from the NFL when it comes out, if the guards are holding up right there, there's been a place where we see where you're looking and we see where you're calling. But still, at the end of the day, you still don't call that play with your quarterback 5 yards deep in the end zone. That's max a 20-yard play. Yeah, you call max protect, you bring in 2 tight ends, you bring in someone else, and you get 5 or 10 yards. And that's what I don't understand about the Jaguars right now. They're not doing the simple stuff. I feel like the Jaguars are trying to outsmart teams and outsmart people when you just need to line up and do the basic stuff. And what Travis Etienne was, hinting at this week in the press conference, line up, run the basic stuff. Run the basic stuff. Get the basic yards. 1st and 10, let's get set. Let's get 5. 1st and 10. Let's try to get 3. Let's make it a 2nd and short. Let's make it a 3rd and short and everything else like that.
Because I'll tell you what, guys like Brandon Scherf, he's an NFL veteran. He's been around. Don't make him try to pass protect for 3 seconds. Instead, you should be lining up and just, where's the speed of our running back? Let's get out on the edge on this play. Let's use Tank Bigsby in the middle. This is the stuff that we just crushed a Miami Dolphins team who played the exact way that you're describing about how the Jacksonville Jaguars go about composing their offense, where it's a lot of window dressing and you have some really nice thoughts. But at the end of the day, football gets won in the trenches, and the foundation that it takes to get to those big splash plays just isn't there.
It reminds me of the Mike Tyson, the whole Mike Tyson saying, everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the mouth.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, this is still football.
Yeah. And
you have to be able to move another person against their will in the opposite direction that they want to go.
And now a team, like, let's switch gears here, because I'll tell you what, on the defense, man, you guys, like, when you guys loaded up that defense in the offseason, like, it's showing now. I was jealous. Like, what's the linebacker you guys signed?
So we've had
Paul Pusluzny.
Paul Pusluzny.
That's your boy from Buffalo.
Yeah, Paul
who decided to go south, Who decided to go south for the winter?
No, Olakun, man. That dude in coverage, he is so
insane.
Good. He's so good.
Foyer's insane.
And so when I look at what you guys are right now on defense, it's the reason that, you've lost 2 games, but those games were rock fights. Like, the other team had to claw and fight you guys for every piece of that win, and it sure as hell wasn't because of your 16 passing yard performance in the first half last week. It's because your defense is doing a phenomenal job. Now, when I look at it, like, obviously adding an Eric Armstead helps, right? Like, adding a dude with that level of talent to a defensive line that already has guys, that's a really nice piece to have. What is it that you like most about your defense against the Bills' offense in this one?
I'll tell you what I do like is our line. We got some great pieces on the line. Buffalo, you guys aren't going to finesse. You're going to smash mouth. Okay. Yeah. No offense. You don't strike me as a finesse team like the Jags try to be. And that kind of plays into our hands.
Yeah.
As far as I think that's why the last 2 games, when you think about it, although, Trevor turned the ball over a bunch in the last game, the game before that, I think it was low scoring. We were able to sneak up on you because it kind of plays into the nature of who we are as a team on defense. And so, you look at like Trayvon Walker, for instance.
Yep.
Yes, we have him listed as a pass rusher. Yes, he's a defensive end. Yeah, he got 10 sacks last year, but he doesn't get them by swing moves and spin moves. He gets them by overpowering and taking out 2 people, and that definitely helps us.
Well, Darrick, we talk about that all the time. The archetype of pass rusher that the Buffalo Bills look for, they're not out there drafting like Greg Rousseau. The Bills kept saying over and over again, that was our pick. He was our guy all along. It's why we didn't trade out of the first round, because we felt he might fall to us. The archetype for defensive end, which is why they drafted A.J. Epinesa, who used to be a 3-4 interior, like 5-tech defensive end. And they made him cut weight and learn how to be a 4-3 D end, is because they need guys in this defense who are big, physical, strong at the point of attack so that they can not only handle the run, but in the pass rush, you don't win with speed. You don't win with finesse. You're not bending a corner. You don't have a rip move and you're going to get by somebody. They crush the pocket. And the reason they do that is because they believe that the defensive tackle room is deep enough that when you crush a pocket, you don't leave these giant escape windows for quarterbacks to run out of. Teams do it to Josh Allen all the time. They try to just really quick bend the arc and come around the backside of the pocket. That's fine, because where you vacated, Josh is just going to take off.
Yeah.
We don't do that. We just smash the pocket in, and you guys, with especially bringing in Eric Armstead up the middle, this is where your defense becomes dangerous. He's playing that old school Calais Campbell role. When you guys were Jacksonville, I still remember that. And I will say, I love Calais Campbell. That dude in your jersey might have been one of my favorite players on the planet, because the way he approached the game and the physicality that he played it with. You have that throwback front 7. You have it now with Josh Allen, that's where I think this game might be won and lost. It's probably going to come down to the performance of those 7 guys. Would you agree with me?
You better call him Hines Allen. That's been big correction. You got to say Hines Allen.
I'll get yelled at.
We'll do it.
I think you guys. I think the way that Buffalo, keeps this game interesting, is with James Cook. The running, like they, the Jags right now running between the tackles has been a very big issue for us. At least in the first half. First half right now, running backs have gotten off, and it's been those back-breaking drives where our running back will convert on a third down and the clock is just matriculating and going down. That's where the Jags, get. I think that's where they get beat a lot is within the run. I will say that with the absence of Tyson Campbell, we've got a very, deep secondary right now with Monteric Brown, who's played a very outstanding game. You've got Ryan Nielsen has developed this defense where you come in waves. So like you're mentioning about Foye being an outstanding middle linebacker, you've got a person like Ventrell Miller, that's able to come in, who's just as fast, may not be as smart, but instinctively is just as fast as Foye, along with Devin Lloyd and Chad Muma, there from a linebacking perspective. And then you've got, the big hitter, Cisco in the backfield, being the quarterback of the defense and playing that strong safety role. So I think really, I don't, and again, this is just me understanding and seeing what Buffalo's done and understanding what the Jags, have imposed as a threat. I think the way that Buffalo beats this team is through the tackles and running the ball and playing the smash mouth football. I think this is an opportunity to where Josh Allen, if he can go off and he can run, it's going to be tough, to tackle, this dude who can jump over you, who can step on you, who can run over you and those things, right? So I think the ground threat, that Buffalo possesses is what's going to be the key to the victory for the Jags.
Chris, can you do me a favor? Can you Google what our Josh Allen's record against the Jacksonville Jaguars is?
It's not good.
I was going to say, I feel like he's due. I feel like he's due to have a game.
I think it's 2-3 or yes, 2-3.
I don't think it's 2-3. I think he's lost most of those.
I think I
don't think he's won a game.
And again,
when did he come into the league?
This isn't a slight because I don't want. Again, this is it's friendly fire.
Oh yeah,
that's what we're talking about, right? He's lost more than he's won against the Jaguars.
100%.
And we have this conversation that the Jags and the Bills, somehow this has turned into an AFC,
it's sort of a
crazy
rivalry. It's a weird outlier of a thing because you think about it in the sense of the Bills get put on this pedestal as the more successful team. They've got the spotlight. They've earned all these things. And yet every time they play the Jaguars, they get fucked up.
It's the craziest thing.
The Urban Meyer loss shaved 3 years off my liver. I know that. I was drunk in a beater in my garage at 10 o'clock at night after that loss.
Bills are 1-2 against the Jaguars since Josh Allen came into the league.
Yeah, you're right, because Josh Allen had that one game when Jalen Ramsey was still there. Mm-hmm. And then there was the fist fight.
Yeah, there was the fight.
Stopped him on the goal line. And then, okay. So that was 2018. Yep. 24-21. And since then, we haven't won a game.
So before we I got a couple questions because obviously we don't follow the Bills as much as you guys do. But how's my boy Dewan Smoot doing?
Dewan Smoot doing? Yeah. He hasn't played. Dude got turf toe. And they're like, we're going to, and then they go, we're going to baby him. And I'm over here yelling about how, we need him. And then they go out there and just dominate on the defensive line. And it's like, all right, maybe we don't need him. Rest that dude. Let that dude get some rest. Because I'll tell you what, I like him. Yeah. I like him. I like what he was able to do for you guys.
Yeah.
And as on a cheap contract, there was a lot worse you could have done as a
bro. I mean, when he takes something like that, it's like, come on, man. We all know the salary cap's fake. Figure out a way to keep him, at least from a locker room perspective, because Smoot does a lot of great things within the community. And I know that Buffalo, does get a bad rap as far as from a fan perspective goes. But there are some things that the fan base will rally around together. Like when Tua got hurt, the money that was sent to Tua, and his foundation. I believe it was like a couple years ago when the Bengals got y'all into the playoffs. Y'all were sending money to someone's like cat.
Andy Dalton.
Yeah. So some stuff like that. And like, so, you know, and I think Smoot is a great person for the community and those things like that. And the second player that I want to ask about too, only because he's been wearing that ugly ass hat and that comes out of New Era up there in Buffalo, Von Miller. Like
Von Miller.
Von Miller and the plaid hat. Bro.
Dude, it's gross. I'll tell you what, Von Miller's out. Von Miller is just a few shitty hats and one grandma robe away from being Cam Newton 2.0. Like his outfits are borderline offensive. And yet he's Von Miller. If I say it to him, what
yeah,
he'll fold me up like a hot pocket. I'm not saying that.
So somebody told me that was high fashion, and I was like, then he must be high wearing that.
Yeah,
he steps out of the house. Yeah,
my favorite is watching like all these guys come into the game and they're like, oh yeah, let's check out everybody's drip as they're walking in. And Von Miller always has something outlandish on.
Yeah,
and I just think to myself, if I had that much money, I would probably just be wearing a Hawaiian shirt and the most comfortable shorts I could find.
Dude, or pull the Jason Kelsey. You know, the Jason Kelsey walks in with flip flops on.
Yeah,
you know, he's here. He's got a Louis duffel bag, so you know that he's got a little bit of bread, and then but he's got a t-shirt on and some shorts or anything else like that.
One of my favorite moments in life, in general. I'm at this restaurant. Now, it used to be nice. It used to be white linen, tablecloth, everything else. Then they turned it into like a dockside thing, but it was Templeton Landing. We're there. We're at dinner. We're sitting at a table, and this guy walks in wearing khaki shorts, like cargo shorts, boat shoes, like a Hawaiian shirt that has ducks on it and a bucket hat. And he walks in, and this guy's got to be in his late 60s. He walks in, looks around the restaurant. Everybody's wearing like nice shirts. You dress up to come to this place. And he goes straight to the bar. Yeah. And my friends are making fun of this guy. And I'm shaking my head. I go, guys, that guy could buy and sell you tomorrow. I guarantee it. Sure enough, about 20 minutes later, I don't even want to, she wasn't even a 10. She was a 12. This 27-year-old chick comes in, sits down next to him. They have a bunch of drinks, and then they go out and they get into his Bugatti and they leave. I was like, I called it. I called my shot. I said what I said. That dude has so much money. He doesn't care what you think about what he's wearing.
You know that Von Miller has fuck you money when his choice of hairstyle is a triangle on the back of his head.
He's a chicken farmer too.
Yeah. The dude's like, I'm gonna farm chickens. So what about it? What about it? Say something to me.
So speaking of chickens, right?
Yeah,
and
let's
Buffalo
get into it.
and wings. You know, you couldn't have written a better segue than that. Like you couldn't have written something.
You're missing out because at the tailgate. Now, I know you were going to come, and I know it's heartbreaking you can't be here. I'm very sad about it, and I know you are too. Yeah. But we will have grilled chicken wings.
Yeah, grilled. So what is the perfect, the quintessential Buffalo wing? Like, okay. I need to know what are the elements of a Buffalo wing?
I'll walk you through the tailgate process as I've learned it from the late great. Well, I shouldn't say late because that means he's dead. He's just old and slow. Yeah. It's Iman Azizi. Iman Azizi is the best cook I've ever seen with my own two eyes. Yeah. I've learned an incredible amount from him. So with that, if you're talking about tailgate wings, right? Yeah. You don't have a deep fryer out there. I mean, I bring a turkey fryer to ours, but we only cook pastelillos in there.
Yeah.
So
what is that?
You never heard of pastelillo? Oh man, off air, I'm gonna blow your mind. Dominican meat pies. Ooh. Yeah.
Like an empanada?
Yeah, imagine that, but stuffed with meat, cheese, different seasonings, like a little Saison in there, and you
little Sazon.
So with the wings, you're gonna take your chicken wings. You're going to dry them off. You're going to spray them with duck fat, right? Yep. A little duck fat, because now what you've done is you've added an extra layer of moisture and fat it's your binder, but it's also going to add a layer of protection so you can't dry them out.
Yeah.
Then you're going to take whatever rub you're going to use. You know, we use the
Q. The Q. What is that? Is that the Q42? Is that the Buffalo? Is that the South Buffalo?
No, that's the KC style. But you can also use the South Buffalo chicken rub, and I'll tell you what, that stuff is dynamite. You use your rub. And you throw in a little bit of cornstarch and you just toss them. Yeah. And then what you do is you throw those things on the grill offset and you run them to about 170, right? Like 170, 180.
Mhm.
You pull them off, you sauce them. Now you're going to put them back, and you probably throw a fresh chunk of cherry wood in there because it kicks the heat up a little bit.
Mhm.
And I want those things to go to about 200 degrees.
Yeah.
The thing is, because you added the chicken fat on the
I
outside,
want to dry them out.
it's not going to dry them out. And now you've crisped that skin. That thing is going to crunch like you deep fried it. And at the same time, all you did was add some smoke and you cooked it right there on a grill.
Yeah.
And it's saucy, it's crunchy, it's the whole nine.
Yeah.
Iman's,
Yeah,
Excellent.
that's
with,
how that's actually, people don't know this. That's how mine and Iman's friendship started. I saw his wings on Instagram, and I had gotten really tired of cooking my friends some really bullshit chicken wings. They were disappointed. I saw them and I go, can you please come teach me how to do this? Because I suck. And he showed up with a duffel bag full of he starts pulling out equipment and different things. And I realized he was way above my grade as a cook. And our relationship just took off from there.
With the with buffalo wings, are you because here, at least the way that I like my wings, I like them hot. I like the sauce wet. You know what I mean? So we call it like a lemon pepper wet here in Jax.
Yep.
Or is it the same up there, or is it just straight up crispy buffalo sauce?
Well, you can ask for well done, or Chris, am I wrong in this? You ask for your wings well done if you want them a little crispy, or just extra crispy.
Depending on the if you go to like a restaurant, because I had this, Jessica and I went out for wing. We were at the Ridge in West Seneca, and the waitress has asked me, "Do you want them crispy?"
Yes.
So I was like, "Yes."
So you say, "Hey."
So sometimes you'll get servers that'll go, "Hey, do you want them crispy?" They'll ask you,
and then you go crispy and saucy. And what they'll do is they'll double fry them. They'll do the Chinese double fry method.
Yep.
And then they'll hit them then they'll sauce them afterwards. So it's still crunchy, but it's nice and saucy. Or you've got your dry rub wings, in which case, like you said, sometimes it's wet, sometimes it can be dry, and you kind of get to pick and choose. Up here, we stray more towards the just buffalo sauce is like one of the few wet things.
Yeah.
Everything else is either a seasoning or it's a different sauce that has like seasonings in it.
Gotcha.
So there's really not a lot of differentiation. I'm not going to lie to you. I don't eat chicken wings outside of Buffalo.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this. I have another thing.
Big.
And I'm going to say something.
Is it because you don't leave Buffalo, or
I'm like Charlie Kelly and Always Sunny? I've never left.
you just never leave, or what?
I'll tell you this. I have a rule that pisses everyone I know off. How do you feel about blue cheese, John?
I mean, I like blue cheese.
Darrick?
Not my thing.
It's exactly not your thing. Are you a ranch guy?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Now here's my thing. If you are a place, and people fight me over this, if you put any breading, even a little bit of breading on your chicken wing.
You lost me. If
you bread a piece of chicken, I don't give a shit what it is. I'm putting ranch on that thing. I'm going to put ranch on it, and you can't stop me. I go somewhere and they go, no.
wings.
There's a place here called Wing Nuts. There's a place here
that's
called
like the place
place that was on Barstool.
Yeah,
that
that's
Big
the
Cat
place.
and all the guys rave about. You know why the wings look so big? Because they're breaded. And I'll tell you this. I'm going to put ranch on them if you put breading on it. And I'll fight the person who does anything different.
Yeah. Well, so the only breaded wings that I eat is from Publix here in Jacksonville. So Publix is like a supermarket chain. It's a lifestyle, as you could say.
It's a lifestyle.
Yeah, so
I get
Publix,
it. I lived in Atlanta. I know all about
you know
Publix.
about Publix. Yeah. So Publix. Yeah. So Publix wings.
We don't want to.
Our friend Mark Smith would not shop there.
Yeah,
he's going to listen to the podcast. Mark, Publix is not a place for you.
Yeah,
you can't go there.
John,
he wouldn't shop there for what? Why?
No, because he's a
he's a Piggly Wiggly kind of guy.
He's a Piggly Wiggly.
Win Dixie.
So he's shopping with the EBT. I'm joking.
You know what's hilarious? No, I'll tell you. Let me stop. Let me stop.
Sorry.
No, he's good.
Yeah. I will say this. If you were going to come up here, unfortunately, two of our top wing spots, because I just went to one recently, two of our top wing spots, 911 and Adolph's. Those are names of real places.
That's literally the places of the best. Two of the best.
What
two of the best.
On? Yeah. So McDermott is on to something now. So it's not just him saying these things. You got a place called 911 and Adolph's.
911 Wings, 911 Tavern, and Adolph's, and they're within like 2 miles of each other. and they are two of the best wing spots in Buffalo. But when you're trying to tell people about it, they make the same face you're making right now.
Yeah.
Hey, we're gonna go to this place called 9/11. The wings are nuclear.
The wings are nuclear. Hey guys, the wings, they're. Oh my God.
Yeah, Drew,
they're killer, man. They're just killer.
Killer wings.
Yo, before we get out of here, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about barbecue.
You got to let them know what we're cooking on Monday.
I am going to do a try.
Jaguar?
Yeah. No, I'm doing a tri-tip.
Amazon and get a Jaguar.
No, I'll tell you what I'm doing. Since I know you're brisket certified, I know you've won awards. Smoking on a Traeger. First of all, let's talk about that a little bit. You've won awards smoking on a Traeger at competitions. Preach, baby. It's just time, temperature, heat. Like, I used to be anti-Traeger, and I still do. I'll tell you this, John, I'll admit, I do crap all over. I give my Reed Ferguson.
Yeah.
I'm business partners with him. I'm friends of his. I give him a lot of guff about his Traeger. But I'll tell you what, cooking is just time, temperature, heat, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Heat, caramelization, it's seasoning. Explain a little bit of your credentials in cooking.
So again, this is not to piss off the barbecue purists or anything. You know, I cut my teeth on the Webers. I've cut my teeth on the propane grills and everything else like that. And you know, I've mastered it. You know, I would say, well, at least within the pellet grill and with the Traeger. I would say the time and temp. Everybody can do the time and temp, but the consistency.
Mm-hmm.
That's just one thing that is hard to beat. You know, and with it's just the consistency, and it's just the consistency of, you know, what you're going to get in the product and the tried and true method. I think if you come up with a very, you know, bulletproof, a bulletproof process, it's going to work. And my bulletproof process is going to be salt, pepper, coarse salt, pepper, garlic, coarse seasonings on here. And you take a little bit of, you know, your coffee seasoning, put it on there just to continue with that bark and help build that coffee seasoning that you guys have. Just help build that bark, help build that just presence and everything else like that, and lock in that moisture. And then from there, it's, you know, if you looking, you're not cooking. So keep the grill closed. Let it do its thing. At the end of the day, it's a grill. And it's every grill, every vessel has its way of getting there. You got to keep the grill closed. But again, winning, you know, $1,000 on a brisket and winning People's Choice. So I went backyard with the brisket, People's Choice with the brisket, and then also People's Choice for ribs, and second place in sides off of a Traeger. And, you know, my thing is just like it can be done. You got to have a tried and true method. Got to have a bulletproof method, and then you got to trust the process, and you got to not let people talk shit. Like, you cook what you want to cook, right? And this is just for anybody cooking any type of competition or anything else like that. Anybody getting into entry level competitions, you know, I know we talked about that a little bit earlier, Chris and Drew, but you make you do what you do. Your friends and family, the people that you cook for and everything else like that, the reason why you're out here to sharpen your skills is because obviously you're cooking with something good. So you do what you do. Don't try to be anybody else. Don't try to imitate Myron Mixon. Don't try to imitate Malcolm Reed. Don't try to imitate the dude from Meat Church. Don't try to imitate any of these other places that you see on YouTube. Make it your own, and then you build it on yourself, because everybody else is doing the same shit that you're doing. Everybody else is wrapping with butter, with parquet on their ribs, and brown sugar. Everyone's wrapping with aluminum foil. Everyone's wrapping with apple juice and all the other stuff. Everybody's doing that already. Cook it yourself, and cook it the way that you figure out that it's like, and the way that you like it. And then I guarantee you everyone else is going to like it too, because everyone's taste buds are different.
I'll tell you what, I'm going to be thinking about you when I'm cooking the tri-tip for this week's tailgate, and I wish you could be there. You and I will get together and we will cook together, sir.
I'm cooking a whole buffalo. I'm cooking them. I'm starting them on Sunday.
John,
starting him on Sunday.
He's acting like he went up to Yellowstone and killed him.
Call me John Dutton. I'm putting a whole buffalo on there, and then I'm wearing the hat like y'all wear, like Flintstones, the water buffalo hat. I'm wearing that hat on Sunday. It's gonna be or on Monday. It's gonna be teal, And when I crank open the trigger, as you see a whole buffalo there, racing pig style. You know how they call it in barbecue?
Yep.
You put a whole pig, racing buffalo style, you know?
Don't worry, John. I will tag you on Instagram in all photos at the tailgate.
Yeah.
Guys,
and I will tag you all also as well. I plan on cooking on Monday since it is Monday Night Football. I plan on doing a pretty decent spread. And again, man, it's one of those things where I think that food is the key to people's culture. I love what you guys do in Buffalo. I love what Iman does as well. Chad, I love watching you eat. I don't see you cooking a lot as well, so I love watching you eat.
Do you, hey, John? Do you have a preferred rub of the ones that we sent you?
So I would say my preferred rub right now, the KC. I love what you guys did with the raw sugar there. That adds a really different element as well. I really like, honestly, I'm going to be cooking with the South Buffalo style chicken rub that you guys sent me as well, because, you know, my thing, and I don't know if anybody else has kids. Well, people have kids that listen to this, but if your kids eat it, it's good.
Yep.
And so when I first got the package that you guys sent me, I tried everything on chicken breasts and chicken thighs because it holds everything good and it's easy to cook. Yeah. So you can try the taste of it and everything. The KC that you guys got, the coffee rub is fantastic. And I love the South Buffalo rub as well. The sauces are outstanding. I do my best to post everything, to give you guys and shout out everything. But you guys got a killer product there, and I can't wait to cook with you guys one day in person. It's going to be outstanding.
I can't wait. Derrick, it's been fun. I know that me and John have just held court over barbecue talk. Look, we're just making you hungry, right?
I'm actually a very barbecue connoisseur. I got my own stuff. He put me on to Traeger, and I got my Fat Boy out there, my barrel smoker that I do things with. I'm just not as loud as John. With that stuff. Well, I'll tell you what. It's not that I don't have confidence, because I got some secrets under my belt too. But when I tell you what, with John, over COVID, man. He just, that prep that he was putting into his barbecue. Yes. And I'm like, you got something, man. You got something. Take it. And he took it and run with it. Man, he had some bacon burgers at the tailgate this past weekend. I'm like, who the hell has bacon cheeseburger, bacon burger? People have burgers, they don't have bacon burgers.
It's the best, man. Like, this is what makes it, because it's always a challenge. It's you versus you. And that's what's the best part about this. I love that we get to share this with you guys. Derrick, I'm going to hit you up with some stuff too. Don't worry. I won't leave you hanging.
No, what you need to do is tell me where you got that Wu-Tang Buffalo shirt.
Yeah, you like that, huh? It's sharp. Yo, we call our coordinators the Killer Bees.
No Griselda.
Babbage and Brady, the Killer Bees.
No, Benny the Butcher. Benny the Butcher's from Buffalo, right?
Yes, sir. All right, guys. It's been a lot of fun, but he's waving his hands over here like an autist, so I gotta leave. Yeah. Where can people follow you on social media, and where can they find your podcast?
Go ahead, Darrick.
Down by the Bank. You can find us on X. And John does a great job at managing the social media. You can find the pod on Spotify, Apple Pods. We don't have the YouTube page up, although we should. But we own the name, but we just don't. We just haven't done it.
You guys can also follow me on X at JK3 at the D-Rock, as well on X, and then on Instagram you can follow me at Kellum K3. LLUM. So I'm always cooking. I'm sponsored by Traeger. So a lot of the stuff that I'm going to be cooking on is going to be on Traeger. If you got something to say about it, I welcome it as well. But, that's where you'll find me. And then that's where I do a lot of my cooks, a lot of the tailgates. Darrick and I, we try to, I've gotten Darrick on the train right now. I'm going to an away game. He chooses to go to away playoff games. So hopefully the Jags can get that. We got 5 minutes left, man. Before we leave, prediction. Drew, prediction.
Prediction? Chris?
Oh, I could easily tell you that this is a fucking trap game, and the Jaguars are going to win by some unreasonable score, like 19-15.
It's going to be the most outlandish thing anybody with squares has ever seen. It's going to be a shit show. Someone's going to have to get helicoptered off the field. Like there's going to be a car crash out in the parking lot that stops the game.
Chris, bro, that was wild.
I love it, guys. I think it's going to be tight. I think it's a one score, less than 5 point game.
Darrick Smith, John Kellum, down by the bank, members of the Blue Wire family. Go find them on social media. I'm disappointed that John's not going to be up here for that Monday night game doing a brisket.
It's going to be disappointing. Like, that's it. I'm not upset. I'm just disappointed. And Chris, I can see that my levels are a little low. Can you help me here? Help a brother out.
Your levels are fine.
So, guys, I guess it's all over except for the keys to victory, right, Chris?
Wow, that's a lot of keys. Bigger the keychain, more powerful the man.
Let's dig into it as we close out tonight's show. The keys to victory for the Buffalo Bills. First of all, you have to attack the right side of the offensive line in pass protection. For as much as I heard the comment earlier tonight that Anton Harrison is an up-and-coming right tackle in the NFL. Well, I'll tell you what, they're probably the weakest pass protectors in the entire Jacksonville offensive line right now. Harrison himself has 7 pressures and 2 sacks allowed in just 2 games. And together they've allowed 9 pressures and 3 quarterback hits. It's not great over there. Brandon Scherf is old. Chris, I think he played for Green Bay for a very long time, then moved on to Washington and eventually became a Jaguar directly from Washington. Correct me if I'm wrong. We watched some of the complicated pass rush stuff that we saw from Babbage. And it really did kind of drive home. This is a different Bills approach to pass rushing. And so in that way, I think one of the things that we always used to run into with the Jacksonville Jaguars is that, hey, we have good tackles and we do this well and we do that well, and you're not going to be able to pass rush us well, and we're going to get the ball out quickly. Well, it doesn't sound like they're doing the ball out quickly part, or the, hey, we're going to hold up well in pass protection part well. And so in that way, I think that there's a lot of hay to be made, especially on that side of the line. And this is where Greg Rousseau typically lines up. And I like that. I think that that's a good spot for him. Because, Chris, I've been kind of questioning, right? Like week 1, week 2, the entire, like the podcast I'm about to record tomorrow, the AFC's Roundup. It's all about how week 1 can kind of be a liar. And week 2 tells you a little bit more about who a team might actually be. Greg Rousseau has been pretty dominant through 2 games of football. Now, the question is, can he do it for a 3rd game against a team that has regularly made us look dumb? In the past few years, they have made us look stupid.
I hope so.
Can Greg Rousseau elevate his play to continue looking like the player that he has? I think that him lining up against Anton Harrison is maybe his best shot to do that. And also, I think that our defensive line might be built really well to take advantage of that. You figure Ed Oliver, where does he typically line up? 3-tech position. It's over right guard. Greg Rousseau, Ed Oliver working together on that side could be a difference maker in this football game. I also look at Benford and Douglas against the outside receivers of Brian Thompson Jr. and Gabe Davis. We can't let this be a week that one of these guys just goes off and has their like, hey, there's the coming out party we've all been expecting, right, Chris?
Yeah.
At the same time, are you really expecting it from a rookie in Gabe? I think this is one of the things. We talked about it earlier with John and Darrick about the concept that This team has all the potential in the world to be potent. And with their linebacker injuries, I could see them trying to work a lot over the middle of the field and the safeties and linebackers with their running backs and Christian Kirk. And, they don't have Evan Ingram, but they'll have weapons. The interesting thing is that when you look at what's going on with Gabe Davis statistically, Chris, like when I say I want to qualify this for Bills fans, because I can't in the moment when I'm talking to a guest, Gabe Davis has no catches beyond 10 yards outside the numbers.
Shocking.
None. It's almost like someone sat here on a Bills podcast for 2 years screaming that he was put him in the slot, use him as a glorified tight end. I don't know. I don't know. Just maybe deep posts up the seam. It turns out that's where he has value, and he's on his second football team. He's only been targeted once deep beyond 20 yards, which makes me wonder if he just isn't familiar enough with the quarterback or the play caller yet, and they just don't trust him.
Or they don't know how to scheme him.
Is this it? They go, hey, well, he's great, and he's big, and he's fast, and he's sort of physical. He also drops the ball every now and again. And he also gets ridden out of bounds on the sideline sometimes. And in the red zone, we don't seem to know how to use him the way the Bills use him. I mean, Chris, look at his statistics. Look at this. Only broke 800 yards once. But 7 touchdowns, 6 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns, 7 touchdowns. The dude had 27 touchdowns in 4 seasons. But I have to ask the question, how much of that is offensive coordinator and quarterback? I'll wait. Do you have an answer? How much of his 27 touchdowns in 4 seasons is just coordinator and quarterback?
All of them.
How many other teams is Gabe Davis an $80 million receiver on?
All the ones that have bad quarterbacks.
And do you think that he is an $80 million receiver?
No.
Earning his paycheck with a bad quarterback, or at least a mediocre one?
No, he's not worth that.
Okay. And then you look at Brian Thompson Jr.
Thomas.
John Jr. Johnson.
Brian Thomas Jr.
Doesn't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck about what his name is. He's made a couple great catches down the field and has no production to speak of under 20 yards, which underscores the fact that he's a rookie and he's raw, and he does not understand the nuances of running short underneath routes in the NFL. I've watched some of the tape. When they use him on short things, he doesn't get open. And there have been people in fantasy football who are very mad about this because they drafted him thinking, oh, he's going to be the next big thing. He's on this pass-heavy offense, great offensive coordinator as a head coach, good quarterback who just got a giant contract. What could go wrong? Well, the fact that he does not catch the ball under 20 yards. Chris, he only gets thrown the ball when he's open. You know what all this does? It tells me that Trevor Lawrence doesn't genuinely know or trust these guys, especially not behind a suspect offensive line and a play caller who keeps calling up deep routes when he doesn't know if his quarterback's going to survive upright to see it through. Through 2 weeks, the Bills have been really dominant against other teams' outside wide receiver talent, despite absorbing pretty significant injuries at linebacker and cornerback. Some of this has to do with the pressure, but if our first key doesn't work about getting pressure on Trevor Lawrence and making him flustered in the pocket, giving him the happy feet that we've read all about this week, then, I don't know. It's like you have to deal with some of these guys, right? The whole, Chris, here's some statistics that tell you what we're up against. The whole Jaguars wide receiver core has 11 yards after the catch and 2 first downs against man coverage. This is a team that does not do well against physicality. What were we last week against Miami?
Physical.
They have 100 yards after the catch against zone. Zone, when every team has gotten a lead on them and gone, hey, we can sit back and rest on our laurels. That's where the Jaguars come back. Do you think Sean McDermott is going to fall into that trap?
I hope not. We need to beat
not.
Fucking Jaguars.
Like, think about the failed deep shot that we talked with John and Darrick. The man coverage that teams are playing against them helps support the pass rush, which is why their offense can't survive. That offensive line really is the Achilles heel of the entire thing. This defense is going to have to come out and play physical, and I almost feel like there's some room for some Kyrie limit here, don't you? Depending on how they decide to deploy Gabe Davis, if they're moving him into the slot, I expect to see Kyrie active for game day and deployed whenever they think that the Jaguars assume they can get away with, hey, we're going to slide Gabe Davis into the slot. Or we're going to bring Brian Thomas Jr. into the slot. Well, fine. We'll leave Benford and Douglas on the outsides. And we'll just bring in a bigger DB to come in there and play Cam Lewis's role. I think that that's the key to shutting this thing down. And realistically, how they attack the slot and how they attack our safeties is going to be the difference in this game. And on the flip side of the ball, for the Bills offense, Chris, it's time to go after another geezer who used to wear a Bills uniform.
Was Lusney?
I mean, I'm not going to lie to you. We can still go get him. But Chris, if you and I pulled up in front of Puzzlesney's house right now, do you know how old he is?
No.
Google it. When I say the word football geezer, do you know how old he is?
39.
I'm 39 years old. If I pulled up outside of Paul Puzzlesney's house and tried to start some shit, he would whoop both of them. He would whoop you with me. That's how it would happen.
I would lightly slap him in the face, just like one of these. Just a light slap, and then I would run as fast as I can away from the scene.
He would beat you to death with my corpse. So with that in mind, when we're talking, it's funny when we call these guys geezers in the football sense. Like, think about that. He's 39. When he last touched a football in 2017. That's crazy. God. Former Buffalo Bill, now Jaguar, Ron Darby. That's a name that brings back memories, huh?
Yeah, the regatta.
Well, that's it. I was at the Great Valley Regatta when I heard that we drafted Ron Darby. And I was just like, everyone's texting me being like, Drew, we took a cornerback. I was like, I've never heard of this guy before. Who gives a shit? And then Chris, I feel like the movie Titanic, which is like, it's been 84 years. It's been 84 years since I heard the name Ron Darby and gave a shit. Sean McDermott got rid of him the second he got to Buffalo. Doesn't he have a ring with the Eagles?
They win in 17?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I thought he was part of that Super Bowl winning
17.
team.
Yeah. He's got a ring.
So we trade him away. He wins a ring. And then he just kind of drifts around the NFL. How many teams has he been on?
Philadelphia, Washington, Denver, Baltimore, Jacksonville.
So he's just drifting now. He's reached journeyman status. He's had a rough start to the season statistically. He's given up their biggest pass of the season of 80 yards. He's given up the most yards after catch at 60. And he's given up the team's only passing touchdown against. Like true passing touchdown in coverage against. I think we need to do the same thing we did to Poyer on that Shakir catch. And you just line up Chris, it's the Shawn Michaels, HBK, just the sweet chin music. And you're like, hey, Darby, I'm not really sorry because I never knew you. And then you kick him right in the fucking teeth. They need to attack him wherever they are, wherever he lines up on the field, go after him. He's at the end of his NFL rope and he's not good. Specifically for a man corner who can no longer play physically. Go get him. It seems like a good matchup for guys like Shakir or Samuel, right?
Yeah.
Over a guy like Coleman, who probably will struggle still with some of those man coverage concepts. Their safeties are also having a really tough time in coverage. They've graded terribly. They've given up a tons of yards after the catch. Given the strength of their defensive line, you can go two ways with this, Chris. Heavy dose of 12 personnel. Go max protect. Run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. They're talking about the problems running the ball up the middle. We steer into that. And then you play action pass the way that they should have off that Davis third run that ended up in a 1-yard loss. That's when you play action. You run them this way and attack the safeties in the second level. Or spread and quick game, but run it from the pistol and shotgun formation. And each one comes with its own pros and cons. In 12 formation, tight ends and Matt Collins and Coleman mismatched on their safeties. That's something that the Bills can exploit. And if you can ever teach Coleman to just run the Gabe Davis post route, he's going to be a touchdown machine. You can keep the linebackers honest with the threat of a power rushing approach if you go heavy. Or you spread it out. And you say, hey, Jacksonville, commit to blitzing from the second level since Josh is going to be able to see your defensive linemen coming and avoid them from the backfield. And you watch like delayed runs, preoccupied linebackers and safeties will make them more susceptible to being hit by Kincaid and Knox and Shakir in those soft zones when they go into a too high shell. I think that this team, Chris, has a lot. They've got a lot of ways to exploit the Jaguars, and I don't know that they have the same to do it to us. Because for as well as they're printed out on paper, right? Like if you were making a fantasy football lineup, you'd say, hey, all these players have value. You have running backs screaming in the locker room about how they need harder workers. And you have guys who are pointing to the coaching staff saying, hey, I'm just doing the job I'm asked to do. And it's not my fault that we're not scoring more points. And then you have a quarterback who's being paid a premium, which is the reason you couldn't go get better protection. It's the reason you couldn't go afford a more expensive wide receiver. It's Chris, we made a trade inside the conference with Houston, trading Diggs away. You don't think that the Jaguars might have liked a receiver like Stephon Diggs? They just knew they couldn't pay him because they just paid their quarterback.
And they like Gabe Davis.
No, they love Gabe Davis because they have to love Gabe Davis because now they paid him $80 million to be a worse version of the guy he was in Buffalo. I feel like Buffalo walks away with this thing.
You heard me earlier. 19-15. This is going to be some fucked up game, and you're going to be mad. And I wouldn't be surprised if you want to leave in the third quarter. That's my guess.
What I'm going to say is that I think that this team has matured to a point, and Chris, this is it. Like if you want to move forward, you have to get over certain humps, right?
Yeah.
And if me as a fan, I want to grow and I want to stop being just a complete C-word during these games, then I have to watch the Bills go do some things that I don't initially think they're capable of. And even if they struggle early, I need to know that overwhelmingly they're the more talented, better coached team. Do they have a better coach?
Jacksonville does not.
No, the Buffalo Bills.
We do.
Okay. Do they have a better quarterback?
No.
Okay. So we do. Do they have better wide receivers?
Keenan McCardell's pretty good.
Do they have a better offensive line?
Was it Luke Jokel?
Luke Jokel. And whose defensive coordinator do you trust?
I don't remember who was their coordinator in the 90s.
I just feel like the Bills have enough advantages in this game. It may not seem like it on paper, but it's enough advantages. They should be able to walk out of here handily with a win.
They better.
They better. Because Chris, 3-0 and on top of the AFC East and the AFC for another week feels pretty sweet, doesn't it?
Yes.
Guys, this has been a lot of fun. We got to get the hell out of here. I'm Drew Gear. That's Chris Kruger. And this has been your preview